Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Eric Bain coming to you from what I call the pit, or AKA the bunker. This is where all things happen these days with Eric Bain. I've been kicked out of the upstairs of my house. My wife and daughter both working from home. They get the dining room table. I get the basement. I call it the pit sometimes. You'll find me here working in my winter coat and my jacket, or my winter coat, not my jacket, my winter coat and my hat, because it's so cold down here that it's freezing to death, but the heat just kicked on, so that's nice. It reminds me very much, to be honest, of a text in the Old Testament where we read about Joseph. In fact, we read about Joseph beginning in Genesis chapter 37 on through about chapter 49 or so. But what's interesting about Joseph is he gets thrown into a pit, kind of like this one, and which reminds me, 5 years ago, I was in this very same pit. I was unemployed at that point. I lost my job, and this wall right here and this wall right here, I had filled out so many resumes that it literally from floor to ceiling, there were resumes posted there in case somebody called me back, because I tweaked each one to try to get a job, and so if somebody called back, I needed to be able to remember which one I actually got. And that brings me back to Joseph, because Joseph found himself in this pit. Life had thrown him in a pit, and so many of us right now, we're in the pit with this corona thing. It's like we don't know what's going on. Life seems to be falling apart all around us. Everything we dreamed about, life as normal, is gone, and we're now in the pit. And we sense that God is involved, that God is going on, that God's got stuff going on, but nothing seems to make sense, and people are dying, and life is weird, right? Well, here's the thing. If you read that story, and I challenge you, go read it. Genesis chapter 27 or 37 through the end of 49 or so. Read the story of Joseph. He gets thrown in the pit, and guess what? The pit is just the beginning. It's like he goes from one pit, and he thinks things couldn't get worse, and then they get worse. And then he thinks they couldn't get worse, and then they get worse. And so it's like a pit after pit after pit. But finally, one day, he finds himself back up out of the pit, placed up second in command in all of the kingdom of Egypt. And he says this to his family. He says, what you intended for evil, God intended for good. And I want you to think about that. What others intended as evil, God intended as good. The same is true today. Same God is working, same God is moving. You may find yourself in a pit right now, just like this one, but God is doing stuff. 5 years ago, I was in this pit. I never thought I would get out of it, but God has done amazing things, and brought me life and healing and restoration as he brought me out of the pit into relationship with him. And that's what he ultimately wants for all of us. So here's my challenge to you today. I want to see, we're all sitting in the pit. We got a 5-minute break. By the way, boss, I'm working. Don't worry. I got my emails. They're going out. I'm doing stuff. I'm just taking a break. But anyways, listen, I want all of you, get online at some time here in the near future. This is the challenge. Get online and share with other people how you've been in the pit before, but you've gotten out of it. God brought you out of the pit. He's restored you. He's redeemed you. We need to hear these stories of hope. And I promise you, God is moving. He is alive and well in the world today. What was intended as evil will be brought forth as good as God takes care of us and reveals himself. And the bottom line is he wants a relationship with you and with the others you know. So help others that you know come to know him by sharing your stories of how God has brought you out of the pit. Do it today. Take this challenge. My name is Eric Bain, and I am the 5-Minute Pastor.